Hello there and welcome back to Gemma Movie Recap. Today, I'm going to recap The Imitation Game, a 2014 thriller, drama film. The Imitation Game, which is based on the true story of renowned cryptanalyst Alan Turing, depicts Turing and his brilliant team of codebreakers at Britain's top-secret government code and cipher school at Bletchley Park during the darkest hours of World War II in a hair-raising race against time. Warning, spoilers ahead. Please be cautious. But before we start, please support our channel by subscribing and click the bell icon for future notifications. Now, let's start. The movie opened in Manchester in 1951, where it was reported that Alan Turing's residence had been burglarized, as intercepted by the Secret Intelligence Service, MI6, headquarters. The police visited Alan, who was then working as a professor at Cambridge, to inquire about the break-in. However, upon their arrival at his home, he disregarded their presence. The police found his behavior bothersome and suspected him of hiding something. In 1939 London, Alan Turing arrives at Bletchley Park during the evacuation of 800,000 people due to the war. He impresses Commander Denniston by revealing his expertise in solving puzzles and the top-secret program Enigma. Despite not speaking German, Alan believes he can decode Enigma and bring the war to an end. The commander is skeptical but allows Alan to give it a try. In London in 1939, Alan Turing, a renowned mathematician, joins a team of 5 others, including Peter Hilton, John Cairncross, and Hugh Alexander, to crack the Enigma code. They obtain an Enigma machine, but lack the settings to decode messages. The Germans refresh the settings every midnight, leaving them with only 18 hours a day to decipher the messages before the code changes again. Alan is initially resistant to working as part of a team and keeps working alone on the machine's designs. The chief of MI6 urges them to begin as 4 men have already died due to the uncracked code. They have 159 million possibilities each day, and it would take 20 million years to try them all. In 1951, the detective who was previously involved in investigating the robbery of Alan Turing's home discovered that his records are still classified. He is suspicious about why a mathematics professor would have sensitive information, leading him to become doubtful. To gain access to Alan's service records, he forges a document using a typewriter. In 1939, Alan complains to Commander Denniston that Hugh Alexander has rejected funding for the components he needs to build the machine. The commander suggests that Alan should take the matter up with someone else because he and the other codebreakers don't get along. Alan suggests firing everyone and using the money to buy his machine, insisting that only machines can defeat other machines. The commander reveals that Winston Churchill is his commanding officer when Alan asks about it. Later, Stuart Menzies delivers a letter from the Prime Minister to Alan. Churchill removes Hugh's authority and puts Alan in charge. 2 of Alan's team members are immediately fired after he criticizes them for being inadequate codebreakers and linguists. When asked if he was famous at the time, the information is not provided in the given passage. Charles was bullied for his OCD tendencies as a child, but his classmate Christopher helps him see his uniqueness as a strength. The codebreakers publish a crossword puzzle in newspapers to recruit new team members, and Joan Clark impresses Alan by solving a puzzle faster than anyone else. Joan and another man are sworn to secrecy about their work on cracking an unbreakable Nazi code, which could help win the war. In 1940, Bletchley Park is up and running. Alan becomes worried when Joan doesn't arrive on time for the supercomputer's connection in a secret hut. He visits her house to persuade her parents that Joan is essential to the radio factory that wants to employ her. Despite her parents listening in, Joan speaks with Alan privately. She tells him that her parents believe it is inappropriate for her to live and work with men. Alan suggests that she work in the clerical department with women, although she won't actually be doing that. This seems to persuade Joan, and she packs up and goes with Alan. She questions his interest in assisting her, and he responds by repeating the quote, "Sometimes it's the very people who no one imagines anything of who do the things no one can imagine." In 1951, Detective Knock tells Superintendent Smith that Alan's military records have been destroyed, implying that he may be a Soviet spy. Meanwhile, in 1940, Joan starts working as a clerk at Bletchley Park. Alan narrates that the Germans are sinking food shipments from the US, causing Britain to starve. The team works late every night until the code is reset the next day. Hugh visits Alan and wants to destroy the machine, frustrated with their lack of progress. Peter points out that their loved ones are fighting in the war while they work on the machine. Alan remains optimistic that the machine will be successful. In 1940, Alan sneaks Enigma messages out of the hut and takes them to Joan's home. They discuss the messages and the potential of a digital computer. The following day, Alan finds military police searching his desk while the other codebreakers watch. Commander Deniston accuses Alan of being a spy and shows him a telegram that was intercepted on its way to Moscow. They suspect Alan due to his personality traits, and Deniston threatens to hang him for treason if he's caught. Joan meets Alan in the beer hut and suggests that he needs the help of his team, but they won't support him if they don't like him. She advises Alan to be friendly and bring something to share. Alan takes her advice and brings apples to the next meeting, where he tries to tell a joke. In a flashback to Alan's school days, his friend Christopher passes him a note that the teacher ridicules for being in gibberish. Alan later breaks the code and discovers that Christopher is going away on holiday. In 1941 at Bletchley Park, Joan and Alan is discussing codes when Hugh Alexander suggests running the wires on Christopher diagonally, which will allow the elimination of rotor positions 500 times faster. Alan implements the idea, turning the machine on, and it works as the very first digital computer. They test the machine to see if it can decipher the day's Enigma settings. War footage is shown. In Deniston's office, he is informed that the machine is not providing any outcomes. He visits Alan's hut and tries to get in, but Alan barricades the door. The door is forced open, and the machine is switched off. Deniston informs Alan that his machine is not functional as it has not decrypted a single German message. Deniston's colleague from the Home Office is angry about spending £100,000 with no output. Alan tries to defend his machine, but Deniston fires him. However, Hugh, John, and Peter intervene, saying that if Alan is fired, they will also have to be fired because they believe that his machine can work. Hugh reminds Deniston that they are the best cryptographic minds in Britain and requests an extension of 6 more months. Deniston agrees to give them 1 more month, after which they will all be dismissed. Detective Knock and Superintendent Smith receive information from a sergeant that Alan has been caught with a male prostitute who later robbed his house, revealing that he is homosexual, which was the information he was hiding from the police. This new information makes the detectives believe that Alan may be hiding something else, and they request him to be arrested for further interrogation. In 1941, Alan is using Joan's flat to work on mathematical equations to speed up Christopher's decryption process. Joan interrupts him and tells him that she has to return home as her parents are not happy with her being unmarried at the age of 25. Alan suggests she should get married, and Joan assumes he's talking about Hugh or Peter, but he's actually proposing to her with a wire ring. Later, an engagement party is held at the beer hut, and Alan confesses to John Cairncross that he is homosexual. John tells him that he already suspected and advises him to keep it a secret since it is illegal, and Deniston is looking for a reason to arrest him. In a flashback to his school days, Alan encrypts the message "I love you" and plans to give it to Christopher, but Christopher never shows up after the holidays. Alan and his colleagues are waiting for Christopher to decipher the code in 1942 when the midnight buzzer starts to ring. In 18 hours, the computer won't ever be able to handle so many possibilities. While at the beer hut, Joan's friend Helen expresses her admiration for Hugh, who eventually approaches her with Alan by his side. Hugh tries to impress Helen by stating that he believes women are intelligent and should be considered equals to men. However, Alan disagrees and believes men and women should not work together because it can lead to romantic relationships. Helen reveals that she has a crush on a male coworker with whom she intercepts messages from a German radio tower. She has grown fond of him, but unfortunately, he has a girlfriend. Hugh and Helen leave for the bar, and Alan is left lost in thought. He calls out to Helen and asks why she thinks her counterpart has a girlfriend. Helen replies that every message begins with CILLY, which she assumes is the name of his girlfriend. Alan informs her that the Germans are instructed to choose 5 random letters to start each message, but because he is in love, he uses the same 5 letters every time. Alan remarks that love just lost the Germans the whole bloody war. Alan leads the team to their hut, bypassing security checkpoints, and presents previously decrypted messages to Christopher. He explains that they can use a computer to search for settings that generate words they know will be in the message, rather than searching through all possible settings. The team tests this method on a 6 a.m. message and successfully decodes it, marking a significant breakthrough as they have finally cracked the code. The team worked tirelessly through the night, decoding messages and creating a map that showed the positions of all their ships versus the Axis ships. During their work, Joan discovers that a British passenger convoy is about to be attacked, and they were only 20 minutes away. Alan decides not to warn the convoy and instead let it sink to maintain their secrecy and change the design of Enigma immediately. Peter, whose brother was on the convoy, objects to this decision, but Alan claims that they are the ones who decide who lives and who dies. The team is torn between their duty to protect their country and the innocent lives that may be lost. Later, Alan and Joan went to London to meet with Stuart Menzies in a tea shop. They revealed that they had broken Enigma and asked for his help in determining which intelligence to act on and which attacks to stop. Menzies agreed to come up with credible sources of information so that the Germans wouldn't suspect that Enigma had been cracked. Peter is angry with Alan for allowing his brother to be killed despite having prior knowledge of the attack. During the confrontation, Alan notices John's Bible and discovers that it is marked in Matthew 7 verse 7. Alan realizes that John is a Soviet spy and John threatens to expose Alan's homosexuality and destroy his work if he reveals John's secret. Alan attempts to contact Menzies but suspects that his calls are being intercepted. He goes to Joan's flat and finds Stuart Menzies there. Alan is informed that Joan has been arrested for being a Soviet spy as Enigma messages were found in her possession. Alan reveals that he gave Joan the intercepts to help crack the code. Stuart admits that he placed Alan and Joan in Bletchley to leak information to Stalin since Churchill was paranoid about sharing information with the Soviets. John was not aware that he was being used for this purpose. Stuart asks Alan for his help in deciding what to leak to John and the Soviets. Alan insists on Joan's release and Stuart threatens to use the Enigma messages against her if Alan does not cooperate. Despite being unable to tell Joan directly, Alan tries to quietly push her to leave Bletchley since he believes she is in danger there. Instead, in an effort to persuade her to go, he confesses to her that he is gay. Joan explains to him that they can still have a companionship-based marriage because she had already sensed it. However, Alan tells her that he doesn't care about her and was merely using her to decipher Enigma. Joan becomes angry by this and smacks him, telling him she won't leave despite the low expectations that men and her parents have for her. To her, Alan is a monster. Everyone celebrates VE Day. Menzies warns the group that they must destroy all evidence of their success in cracking Enigma before they can go back to their university lives because it might be utilized in future conflicts once more. They must also act as though they have never met. Alan is still being questioned by Detective Knock in 1951. Alan claims that after hearing his story, the detective must play the imitation game and decide whether he is a machine or a person. He inquires, "Am I a war hero?" The question, "Am I a criminal?" Alan is told by Detective Knock that he cannot judge him. Alan tells him he is absolutely no assistance to him. After Alan's sentencing for indecency, Joan visits him at his home and offers to testify on his behalf. Alan reveals that he was given the choice of prison or hormonal therapy to cure his homosexuality. He panics, fearing for his work on Christopher and the threat of its destruction. Joan calms him down and they reminisce, but Alan's brain is ravaged by the treatment and he can't complete a crossword puzzle. Joan assures him that his contribution to the world was immense and that he made it a better place by not being normal. She reminds him that it's often the unassuming people who do remarkable things. Years later, Alan is alone at home, gazing at Christopher, his supercomputer, before turning off the lights. In a flashback, the cryptologists destroy all evidence of cracking Enigma. Alan committed suicide in 1954 after being forced to undergo hormonal therapy for a year. Subtitles revealed that around 49,000 homosexual men were convicted under British law between 1885 and 1967. In 2013, Queen Elizabeth II granted a posthumous royal pardon to Alan for his wartime accomplishments. Historians estimate that breaking Enigma saved over 14 million lives and shortened the war by more than 2 years. Turing's work inspired research into computers known as Turing machines. Thanks for tuning in to this movie recap. I hope you found it enjoyable and insightful, and it helped you gain a better understanding of the story. If you found this video useful, please hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. And remember to subscribe to our channel so that you never miss out on our latest movie recaps and other exciting content. Your support is crucial in helping us keep creating high-quality videos like this one. Once again, thank you for watching, and we can't wait to see you in our next one.